Good morning, friends and enemies. Today we're going to do a 12-team mock draft for you little freaks out there, all right? We're going full PPR. We're going to use the Fantasy Pros mock draft wizard for you to use. We will link that down below if you want to try it out yourself. If you're unfamiliar with the Fantasy Pros platform, this is where a lot of the experts make their rankings throughout the season. So what they do is they pull the expert rankings in order for you to mock against. All right. So this is the settings for the current mock draft. We are going to do the 2025 season, full PPR. We'll do a snake. Number of teams is 12. To randomize our draft position, we will have the fourth pick, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a single tight end, never ever kickers, never defense. Let's put 2 flex spots. We'll go 4 bench. Should we do something freaky here? Should we do 4? Nah. I'll quit while I'm not ahead. Who do we want to draft against? The fantasy all experts? I don't really know what that means, what the difference is here. And then one of the other cool things I think about this platform is that you can actually pick and choose how your league drafts. So you could put emphasis on specific positions. If your league goes really wide receiver heavy, right? They can't account for the fact that maybe tight ends get 2 points premium or whatever. So maybe you want to put this at high, at very high, something like that. We're going to keep it normal for the time being. I don't think in these settings, maybe we'll go slightly high on wide receivers just for that. Otherwise, I don't think there's too much of an emphasis elsewhere. But I do think that's a pretty cool little thing here. As well as maybe rookies could get a slight bump because I feel like the way that fantasy football is set up right now, especially with content, the people that are consuming or doing fantasy content in June are the same dudes that trickle over from Dynasty and or best ball drafts on Underdog who are rookie obsessed. So we'll go slightly high, normal slightly high, and we will start the draft. We have the 4th pick. So it's a little bit confusing right now. What do we got going on? All right, so this is the draft board. Jamar, Bijan, Justin Jefferson go 1, 2, and 3. Interesting. So they have all the players available for us here. And I've been pretty vocal about who my 101 is. I can't believe that it's starting to become a consensus thing that Saquon is outside of the top 2 running backs. I hate the argument of, oh, too many touches last year. He can't possibly be good again. Literally shut your mouth. We're going to take Saquon there. I think we'll probably go with a hero RB build, meaning we take our one top dog, our one top G, and then look elsewhere around the positions. So we had a huge run of wide receivers, which again, I think is actually pretty realistic. I think this is how a lot of one quarterback boards are going to end up going here. Interesting. They actually put some of the Fantasy Pros guys in here, the ones that podcast for them. And I wonder if they're drafting based off their specific rankings. That's a pretty cool tool. So after Saquon, we had this huge run of 5 wide receivers: Amon-Ra, CD, Puka, Malik, Garrett Wilson at the 109s. Insane. Gibbs, C-Mac, BTJ, more wide receivers, a couple running backs. I'm going to be honest, man. I'm looking at the board right now, and I don't know that I particularly like the wide receivers more than I like the running backs in the tiers available right now. I might even be thinking about Brock Bowers. I know a lot of people are very anti Brock Bowers or tight ends early in the draft, but we are now at the, 2-9 or 2-9 right now. And Brock Bowers damn near led the damn NFL in, I don't know why I keep saying damn from the fucking South. He damn near led the NFL in receptions. That boy can play football. Dude, he basically took the league by storm as a rookie, and now he has G. Smith at quarterback, which I think means only good things for the Raiders. So I'm actually going to pivot here a little bit. Rather than go wide receiver and take who is likely the best player at his position by a wide margin. If we're looking at Vegas lines, Bowers is, I believe, up above 1,000, while Trey McBride's down at 825, I want to say, yardage-wise. So they do expect a pretty significant tier drop here. So after Bowers, we had Ladd, Kyron, Bucky, Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill, Trey McBride. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, man. I'm going to be honest. I fucking love Chase Brown. He has kind of sneaky become a must draft for me in round 3 of fantasy drafts here. And I'm going on the Underdog Fantasy podcast tomorrow with Josh and Hayden. Depending on when you guys actually watch this, it could drop before that. And they do a series each week throughout the summer where they bring on someone and we go through our 5 must draft players or 5 guys we can't stop drafting. And Chase Brown in the 3rd round seems to be that guy. That being said, I do have Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor kind of in that tier with him. I'd like to go Brown, but I will say Terry McLaurin down here feels like a little bit of a good value to get at my wide receiver 1. I think people are kind of off on Terry. I get it. The target share is not like super high, but he's such an elite separator. And we have Jaden Daniels coming into his second year. I kind of think overthinking Terry is just that. When you look at the situation just purely, it's like we have a really good offense, top 5 scoring offense in the NFL with a young ascending superstar quarterback, and he's the clear alpha here. I will say there is a little bit of a contract dispute going on right now. Terry wants to get paid, but he's a little bit on the older side, so that could push into the summer. And if we see something similar with James Cook, where the vibes are not great right now out there in Buffalo for him, then I will back off a little bit in the mid-third round. But I do think depending on how you're building your team out here, Terry makes a little bit of sense for me as my wide receiver 1, because if I don't go with a wide receiver 1 here in Terry, I'm going to hide the drafted players to make things a little bit easier. I'm probably going to be sitting at a disadvantage pretty heavily in the wide receiver position in a full PPR league. So Terry, Rashee Rice is nice, but everything under that, you start to get to guys that are borderline fringe wide receiver 2s. So it pains me to pass on. We'll grab Terry here. And there goes just so many good players. That run made me sad. That run made me really sad. We'll probably stick with the strategy that we had and continue down the hero RB path here. After Terry, we had Jacobs, Rashee, Mike Evans, Lamar. So you had the top 3 quarterbacks go off who are going to tier for me. Would have loved to have gotten one to come back on the way here. But I do think the way that this is falling is actually really reminiscent of what you'll probably see in an actual 1 quarterback draft. So we're at the 409 right now. I am a huge fan of Courtland Sutton this year. I would love to have him as my wide receiver 2. I'm very much in on Bo Nix. And I think with the same argument I just made with Jaden Daniels, you have a young ascending QB in a very good offense. And with Bo Nix, you have a very good coach in an offensive scheme and a really good offensive line. And Courtland Sutton just had his best career season. And I think he's a staple of my fantasy teams this year. So when I'm looking around the rest of the players, the running backs got to a tier where I don't love them here. I like James Conner. I do think they give him another year as like the bell cow. Health is always a concern with someone his age. David Montgomery's obviously behind Gibbs. I like Aaron Jones too. I like all of these guys, but I don't like them enough to overdraft them above some of these wide receivers that I'm going to need to target based on the way that I've drafted up to this point. So we're looking at guys like Olave, who nobody likes. I kind of like him at his value, man. If you think back to last year, he was 2-1, 2-2 in a lot of drafts, especially in full PPR leagues. So you're getting him at an extreme discount. Obviously, the concussion thing is real. Tyler Shuck at quarterback, but I don't know. Olave just feels like a good playmaker. You got Chris Godwin coming back from the ACL. I'm a little bit weary of him. You have Jalen Waddle. Sorry, ACL. I think I misspoke. Not the injury he had, but regardless, getting older, injury, Mecca Buka there. As long as he plays the slot, I'll feel pretty good about him, though. Jalen Waddle, I don't really want a part of unless Tyreek Hill is out of town there. I'm going to take Olave and call it a day. So we are back up. We still have our pick of the litter at quarterbacks for the most part. And in my rankings, I have Baker and Bo Nix kind of in a tier together. And I think I would draft Bo Nix here, given the fact that I do not have a Buccaneer yet, and I do have a Bronco, and I do like to stack and redraft. I know the correlation and the algorithms and all that kind of shit have been proven out in best ball. I have no idea if they actually help with redraft, but I have stacked players in redraft in each of the last few years, and I've actually really enjoyed it. What I mean by stacking is just grabbing a quarterback with one of its pass catchers. So I'm going to go with Bo Nix here. So we're back on the clock here. We can grab one of these wide receivers as our first flex spot or a wide receiver 4, which I am getting pulled to do because, again, when you take an approach where you don't grab a wide receiver early on, I took 2 rounds before I grabbed my wide receiver 1. You're obviously lacking the upside and the power. So one way to mitigate that is to hit it from the back with a bunch of depth. Now, there are some running backs I like. I think Pollard's really underrated. You're talking about a guy who's rushed for 1,000 yards in 3 straight seasons. They should have a better offensive line. They have Cam Ward under center. So I like Pollard, but I'm not completely sold that they don't want to use Tajay Spears. I think despite all the coach speak, last year they went into the season saying it was a 1A, 1B, and I believe that that's what they wanted. But then Tajay Spears got hurt and then just couldn't stay healthy. So they just had to rely on Tony Pollard, and he was good enough to just hold on to the job as a workhorse. But I do believe in a year where if Tajay Spears is healthy, they will use him a pretty significant amount. But I do look at the rest of the rookies. Quinshon Judkins, I hate the situation in Cleveland. I really like Caleb Johnson. So if I'm going to dip into the rookie running back class in particular and try to get some upside here, it would be with Caleb Johnson. That being said, I don't know if I prefer him over some of these guys that are left here whether it's Rome, Shakir. I like Shakir in that Buffalo offense. At this point, when you're choosing tiebreakers, a lot of the times I'm trying to attach players on good offenses and in good teams, right? So I already have Jacoby Myers. I really like him as a value pick in fantasy, but he's on the Raiders, and I already have Brock Bowers. So I'm not doubling down on that passing offense. But I would like to get some of San Francisco. So I really like Juwan Jennings here. Rome, I want to get some of that Chicago offense. Shakir, I obviously want to get some Buffalo. So I'm looking between Shakir, full PPR league. I do like what he brings. Juwan Jennings. I think my heart is leading me to Juwan Jennings here and hoping that Caleb Johnson falls back to me. And he did not. Things you love to see. So we're sitting here. I don't think we have our RB2 yet. No, we don't. But we can start up to 5 wide receivers. So this is another piece of advice I would give you guys is like, I wouldn't freak out about grabbing your RB2 or having your starting lineup filled out before you're grabbing depth, especially when you get to the point you're choosing between Najee Harris and fucking Brandon Ayuk or Josh Downs. That to me is an easy choice. There are levels to this shit. There are tiers to this stuff. That being said, Brian Robinson has become pretty interesting here. Again, just another player attached to a very high scoring offense. And I don't see a path where he's not the starting running back there, right? They did not go out and spend in free agency. They did not go out and spend in the NFL draft outside of a 7th round pick. So you're bringing back Austin Eckler, who might be completely dusted, and Brian Robinson, who can't really stay healthy, but in the games where he does stay healthy, he is a fine enough RB2. So we can go down the RB2 path with Brian Robinson right now. We could go down Ayuk. We already have a San Francisco 49er, and he's coming back from the ACL injury. I want nothing to do with Debo or Cooper Kupp. I really like Darnell Mooney actually here. I don't know why he's getting so severely disrespected in PPR leagues, but my choice for sure is between B-Rob and Darnell Mooney. I think I'm again going to go with B-Rob here because he is top of the rankings and probably most likely to get picked next before my next pick, where Darnell's down here. And the fall off to me from B-Rob to another serviceable RB2 does not look good. All right, there we have it. Cool. So we got Darnell, even though I really fuck with Josh Downs too. Josh Downs. Give me a little Falcon action. Josh Downs is the next pick, naturally. So another thing we could do here is grab a quarterback too, because this is a very deep year at QB. I think there are 16 or 17 guys I'd be cool starting with as my QB1. And even looking back on that, I took Bo Nix, in the 6th round, and we're down here, and Jared Goff, Caleb Williams, all these guys are still available. We're in the, 9th, 10th round. So that was a fucking mistake, obviously. When I'm looking at these other wide receivers, Emeka Egbuka is a guy who is... The reports out of camp right now are that this dude is on fucking fire. And I've heard a lot of similarities about he's going to be this year's Justin Jefferson, which is a ridiculous comp, obviously. But in the fact that people pigeonhole him as a slot wide receiver because that's where he played best in college. But he also had a lot of experience outside. In the way that Justin Jefferson came in and people were like, oh, he's just a slot wide receiver. And then he became the best outside wide receiver of all time. Really like Emeka Egbuka. So I'm going to grab him here. I really like Tucker Kraft too. I think he's one dude that's getting severely disrespected. So we're going to grab him. We don't really need depth at tight end because we have Brock Bowers, but if this was a tight end premium league, then I would think about grabbing Tucker Kraft there, dude who had a very strong sophomore season. Right now, still a lot of depth at QB, so I don't feel the need to jump in there. I'm going to take a running back here, and I'm going to target Ray Davis for the fact that James Cook is holding out. And again, the rumors out of Buffalo are not good right now. The two sides are not close. It does not sound like James Cook is getting an extension anytime soon. And I think Buffalo's probably fine with any fucking running back that they throw back there and can run out for 20 carries, to be honest with you. So Ray Davis to me feels like a really good value in the 11th round. I'm not sure where he's going in underdog drafts right now, but I'm assuming it's probably jumped up dramatically over the last week or so. So with the last pick, I'm going to grab Jared Goff. I just feel like, why is he just still sitting here? Oh no, we have another pick. I don't even know how many fucking picks we have. Where's my team at? Looking at the team, I don't see any obvious holes here. I think it's a well-rounded team. I do wish I had more upside at wide receiver. Thinking about it now, Barkley is my 101, but going in the direction of a CeeDee Lamb at the 4 might have put my team in a better position because there's a lot more value in the 2nd round at wide receiver, or at running back, I should say, because you could still get the dudes. Let's see. When I was back up at the board at the 209, there was still a Bucky Irving, a Derrick Henry, a Josh Jacobs, a JT, and a Chase Brown. When you get to this spot, the wide receiver position falls off pretty drastically. It was part of the settings that I gave that value wide receivers higher, but a lot of leagues that I play in, especially in full PPR leagues, people really do value the wide receivers higher than the running back. So I wanted to make it a little bit realistic at least. So I'd probably keep taking shots on high upside running backs at this point, or some rookie wide receivers that could break out over the second half of the year. And that's how I would continue to construct this roster. I do like that Tucker Kraft is still sitting here. He's the best player on my board, actually. I'm just going to grab him. Fire, 73 out of 100. Dub, Andrew Erickson with a D-. So some interesting strategies on the board here. Like Andrew Erickson went Gibbs, Genty, Chase Brown, George Kittle. So you have no wide receivers. And then in the 5th round, you go crazy wide receiver heavy. Xavier Worthy, Jalen Waddle, Roma Dunze, Jaden Reed, Luther Bird, and Justin. I'm talking about him. He's in this fucking draft. I like what the bot of him did here. This is where a running back build can go bad quickly, in my opinion. Joe Pisapia goes Bijan and Kyron, which is cool. I think Kyron's a little bit riskier than the other guys around this corner. Then it's like Tyreek Hill feels really risky. I like Hurts, but Jerry Jeudy, what is he without Joe Flacco? And then you don't have another wide receiver until these bots down here. Pat Fitzmaurice did a really good job at the 1, I think, going with a hero wide receiver and then double tapping the running backs here. That's a very strong starting lineup. There you have it. Another mock draft in the book. We'll do at least one of these a week going forward for the rest of the summer. Let me know different platforms. Let me know different types of mocks that you guys want to see going forward. Let me move this so you guys can see the bottom right of the draft board as well, because we got a lot of time, all right? So we've got different angles we can attack this from. If you guys want to see me go into them with specific strategies so I know what I'm doing rather than sitting here flopping around like a fucking fish, I could do that as well. So we're just testing things out, just getting a feel for the trends, just getting a feel for where the tiers jump off at. So maybe this team wasn't that great, but now I know. Listen, in the early parts of the draft, maybe I lean wide receiver heavy because I know in the 2nd round, the running backs are going to be sitting there for me. The 2nd and 3rd running backs, like hero wide receiver, if you're early on in the draft, seems to be the strategy here, because you're getting this tier of the Buckies, the Henrys, the Jacobs is available at the 2-3 turn. And that, my friends, is a beautiful build. So listen, we live and we learn and we draft and we flex and we yell and we tuck our shirts in and we hit the button that looks like this down below, and we subscribe to the channel if we are new here, because we'll be doing fantasy stuff all off season. All right. I love you. Smooch.